Welcome to the exhibition, The Spaces in Between. This is on at Wolverhampton Art Gallery between the 24th of October to the 17th of January 2021. The Spaces in Between is actually a culmination of 5 residency artists and 5 contributing artists from the West Midlands, all who focusing on heterotopias or discursive spaces. Heterotopias are spaces within spaces. These are spaces that provide both access and restriction. This is why we wanted to work with Wolverhampton Art Gallery, which is a council-owned space, because the council operate and allow access and restriction to public space. And with the City Council, we've been talking about how we might regenerate space. All of the artists who are on show, both in Touring Gallery 3 and West Gallery, which is the space we're in now, have been focusing on how design from the bottom up, with artists and creatives who live in their local region, might think about their discursive spaces, the spaces where we meet and talk and share things. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these spaces aren't open for the community to freely access or freely plan with local communities and committees. This entire project is an Arts Council funded project that comes from collaboration with the Council and Asylum Art Gallery Ltd. So all of the works that you're going to see by artists in both Touring Gallery 3 and West Gallery are all in response to these themes and designs around how we might improve and regenerate our local area. This came from a 6-month residency with 5 chosen artists through an open call, all from the West Midlands, who either live or work in the surrounding areas of the Black Country and have a good knowledge of Wolverhampton city centre and the communities that dwell within that. Each of the 5 artists was chosen because they presented proposals that wanted to work with the local community and explore how that community lives, works and exchanges with each other in that city and what isn't working. Some of the artists also chose to look at the memories of communities that have passed or are transient. This included works that came out about the Ring Road, about migration and technology, about post-industrial areas that now have no purpose, such as canals and waterways, and a whole load of other themes and issues that affect the local communities using space in their city. Each one of these residency artists, after working with communities for a month, presented a solo show at Asylum Art Gallery, and we had a writer-in-residence, Nathaniel Grant, who worked with the artist and that community to explore the possibilities philosophically, academically, but also practically how this might be applied with policy with city councils. This publication is available to read on our website, but will also be available as gifted to several institutions in the West Midlands area, including many of the City Council buildings, the Art Gallery, local libraries, the City Archives, and local universities and other local arts galleries in Birmingham and the general West Midlands. If you want to pick up a copy of this publication, which includes essays by all of the artists present in this exhibition, but also potential policies for change and an overview of the project in itself, you can do that by emailing info@theasylumartgallery.com. The publication will also be available next year from the gallery. The open call that we put out for this Arts Council funded project saw over 60 applications, and with so many amazing proposals from so many artists in the Midlands that we hadn't heard of before, we wanted to support as many artists as we could. With wonderful support from Wolverhampton City Council and the Art Gallery, we've been able to showcase not just the 5 residency artists, but also 5 contributing artists who live in the West Midlands, whose work also explores these themes and has been doing so for several years. Moving into Touring Gallery 3, first you're presented with the work by Dunn. Charlotte uses her practice to question and transform traditions about the way that we analyse and comprehend our internal environment. Charlotte looks at manipulating scientific and natural history artefacts and locations, transforming their context through methods of presentation. One of the main heterotopic spaces that you encounter on a regular basis are hospitals, GP practices and pharmacies, the medicalised environment. Charlotte's work challenges us to question what knowledge we can actually gather from these informative presentations, which are designed to deliver specific information for specific audiences, for specific goals. This doesn't always mean that the information that's presented is the information that we need to know. When presented with X-ray scans of the internal, this doesn't necessarily provide us with the answers to the questions we have about how it's going to feel or affect our lives on a daily basis. Thomas Jack Brown, who was our second residency artist for Asylum Art Gallery, presents Wolverhamptopia. By working with footage of both present-day Wolverhampton City Centre and also archival footage from Wolverhampton City Archives, by interweaving music, photographs, promotional film footage, images of tourist information and videos from private collections of the city's residents, he presents us with a kaleidoscopic, heterotopic space of time. Thomas has edited these captured images together so that they may show his view of the permanent features of the city, as well as what may have changed over the course of generations. He's also used archive audio, as well as the voices of local residents and workers of Wolverhampton in present day, in order to gain some understanding of the people who use spaces within the city on a regular or daily basis. By projecting this video art from 3 projectors, layering the sources of light on top of each other, this distorts the images, the memories, keeping the strange but familiar element of the heterotopic thinking. Wolverhamptopia serves as a resurrection chamber, where the voices, the meetings, the departures and the explorations in the near or distant history of the city are once again made present. They offer us access to heterotopic space that engages with changing time. Sahjan Kooner presents a series of unique conversations which consider the transmission of knowledge in the Indian diaspora. It looks at both reconciliation with the past and uncertainties around identity in the present. Within the installation itself is a video work and a sculptural clay installation featuring around 500 individual clay sculptures that have been made between Sahjan and his mother at home. Each one of the sculptures is a memory of architecture or artefacts that his mother has of their homeland. How do we navigate the fluid space between memory, those familiar objects that over time and through memory become nostalgic artefacts of both here and there? In the centre of Touring Gallery 3, you will see 256 unfired porcelain sculptures with a moving image projection layered on top. Theresa's work strives for an authentic femininity. It is deliberately antagonistic and involves subversive acts of exposure. Thinking of the body as sight, that heterotopic space, that discursive space, that layered space, to subversively expose intends to claim back control of the female body on female terms. Okay. This work attempts to erode the fetishistic, dominant structures of patriarchal capitalism, where the body as sight is separate to that of gender and to sex. Often we construct femininity as temporal and malleable, as artifice. How do we attempt to reclaim that for ourselves? Yeah. Tariq Evans presents us with 4 works under the title The Medical Gaze. Dealing with the heterotopic space of the mind, of mental health, we see 4 figures. These 4 pieces present us with bodies stretched and on vast landscapes. There are no peripheries, no end points to these landscapes. In some of the pieces, the bodies meld and waste away into the landscapes themselves. How do we engage with mental health? Thinking back to Charlotte Dunn's work, who presents us with the cold X-ray of the internal. Tariq explores how we might engage with an understanding of this internal event. How might we engage with and access that which is restricted, that which is often underrepresented, misunderstood and misdiagnosed within the medical gaze? The first artist to undertake a residency in the Asylum Art Gallery was Jayne Murray. Jayne Murray wanted to look at ring roads, or specifically how ring roads affect access for local communities to their city centres. Ring roads are car-led, not people-led. The design of these are specifically for the movement of cars, for metal, not for human beings. How does this change our city landscape and our access to them? The underpasses which were built for humans to move through, as they no longer had access to their roads unless they had cars, are now dangerous. And what we need is to advocate for a bottom-up access to distribution. And now the City Council wants to have discussions about how these underpasses can be revitalised and used for communities. Here we have 2 of our contributing artists. The first, Jackie Sanderson, presents 4 pieces of photography called The Old Post Office. This post office was originally on Lichfield Street in Wolverhampton. Thinking back to Jayne Murray's work with the ring road and access to city centres, what's our need for post offices anymore? When the city centre's not being used, footfall is low, and you have to make a visible effort to walk into the centre through the underpasses to use central large post offices. Jackie Sanderson presents these 4 pieces as ghosts. How many of our local buildings have fallen into disrepair through a shift in need that hasn't been readdressed? If you move to Helen Grundy's work entitled Fear Mail, you're presented with 4 letters. Each of these 4 letters, as you can see, are for utilities, for bills, but you've also got some brown envelopes. Traditionally, brown envelopes always strike fear. These are known to be official government letters, normally for tax or for benefits. These brown envelopes tend to be associated with those from difficult socio-economic backgrounds. These collages are deliberately offensive or anarchistic or post-punk. Helen Grundy works as a support worker helping homeless men. Many homeless men actually can't access these letters. Without an address, you can't sign up for benefits. Without benefits, you can't even attempt to get yourself back onto the system as a known person that can be helped. How do we deliver what is needed to those who need it most when there is nowhere to post and with no official residency status, nowhere to send help to. Here we have Fred Hubble. Fred Hubble is also one of our contributing artists, and his current practice encompasses ideas surrounding gesture, but how we gesture and work and engage with the nature around us. This includes a video called The Sower, where he scatters a box of Scots pine needles that have been sent from Kimber Edge to Denmark and then scattered in Denmark. It also presents Bacalao, a book of sea fishes which have been cured traditionally as a piece of salt cod, handmade vitrine. The Storm Archive, which is a growing catalogue of storms that have hit the British Isles collected on their days of arrival, and the Turner frequency. This is blown glass that contains water from the Atlantic Ocean, accompanied by a soundscape. Fred is investigating heterotopias of time. How do we engage with nature and that transient space that's forever shifting and changing around us? With continuing ruptures, reformation, gestures, his engagement with nature becomes performative. It becomes ritualistic. The collecting of storms in jars. The collecting of water from different oceans around the world. How do we hold on to nature and then give it to others? Here we have David Checkley's work. Checkley chose to go and speak to a company called Urban Moorings, CIC. Urban Moorings is a community interest company that specifically focuses on repurposing canal sites for communities to use. For Wolverhampton, which used to be one of the central cities for the Industrial Revolution, of working and living on canal sites, what does this mean now for the city that has no use for this? Where have the communities gone? The boat itself is made from the detritus found on the side of canalways. Given new purpose, formed together as a new uprising out of the detritus, the dirt, the past,